There's a tree growing in California right now that's over 150 years old. It still produces fruit every single year. The family that owns it has never fertilized it, never sprayed it, and barely waters it. They harvest hundreds of pounds of food from that one tree annually, food that stores for months, requires almost no processing, and has kept their family nourished through 4 generations. That's the quiet power of productive trees. Not gardens that need replanting every spring. Not annual crops that fail when the weather turns. Trees that establish once, deepen their roots, and then feed you and your children for decades. But here's what most people don't realize. Not all fruit and nut trees are created equal. Some produce for a few years and then decline. Others take a decade just to start bearing. And many require constant intervention, pruning, spraying, pest management, perfect soil. The 15 trees we're covering today are different. These are the ones that experienced orchardists, homesteaders, and food security experts quietly prioritize. Trees that produce heavily, adapt to challenging conditions, require minimal care once established, and most importantly give you food that actually sustains you. Not just garnishes, not just treats, real nutrition, protein, fats, calories, the kind of food that can anchor a household. We're going to rank them from highly productive to absolutely irreplaceable. And by the end, you'll understand why the last tree on this list has been called the survival tree by people who've lived through real hardship. Number 15, apple, Malus domestica. Let's begin with the most familiar, the apple. But not the ornamental varieties sold at big box stores. We're talking about heritage apples, varieties like Arkansas Black, Roxbury Russet, or Ashmead's Kernel, that were selected over centuries for storage, resilience, and production without chemical intervention. A mature apple tree can produce 300 to 500 pounds of fruit per year. In good years, some trees exceed 800 pounds. And unlike strawberries or tomatoes, apples store. Old varieties kept cool and dry can last from October through March, sometimes longer. Apples contain quercetin, a flavonoid studied for its anti-inflammatory properties. They're high in soluble fiber, particularly pectin, which supports digestive health. But the real value is in their versatility. Fresh eating, cider, vinegar, dried rings, sauce, butter. One tree gives you 6 months of food in multiple forms. Growing considerations. Apples thrive in USDA zones 3 to 8. They need full sun, well-drained soil, and a chilling period in winter. Choose disease-resistant varieties like Liberty or Enterprise if you want low-maintenance production. Common mistakes. People plant one tree and wonder why it doesn't fruit. Most apples require cross-pollination. You need at least 2 compatible varieties. Also, overpruning young trees delays bearing. Realistic expectations. Standard trees take 5 to 8 years to bear significantly. You'll deal with codling moth and occasional fungal issues. Perfect apples require work. Abundant, edible apples do not. Number 14. Pear, Pyrus communis. Pears are apple's quieter, longer-lived cousin. A well-sited pear tree can produce for over a century. There are documented European pear trees still bearing after 200 years. A mature tree produces 200 to 400 pounds annually, and the fruit stores nearly as well as apples if harvested before full ripeness. Bartlett, Bosc, and Seckel are dependable. For fire blight resistance, consider Harrow Sweet. Pears are rich in copper, vitamin C, and fiber. Their prebiotic fiber supports gut health, and traditional herbalists used pear poultices for inflammation. Growing considerations, zones 4 to 8 for European pears. Asian pears tolerate heat better and work in zones 5 to 9. Like apples, most need cross-pollination. Common mistakes, letting pears ripen on the tree, they become mealy. Harvest when mature but firm, then ripen indoors. Also, pears are susceptible to fire blight in humid climates. Prune infected branches immediately. Realistic expectations, less pest pressure than apples, but fire blight can kill young trees. Choose resistant varieties in the southeast. Number 13, plum, Prunus domestica and Prunus salicina. Plums fruit earlier than apples, require less space, and certain varieties handle neglect remarkably well. European plums like Italian or Stanley are cold hardy, self-fertile, and productive. Japanese plums like Santa Rosa fruit even earlier but need cross-pollination. Both types can produce 100 to 200 pounds per tree annually. Plums are high in vitamin C, vitamin K, and phenolic compounds. Dried plums, prunes, have been studied for bone health and digestive regularity. Growing considerations. European plums, zones 4 to 9. Japanese plums, zones 5 to 10. They bloom early, so late frosts can destroy crops in northern zones. Common mistakes: not thinning fruit. Plums set heavily, and without thinning to one fruit every 3 to 4 inches, you'll get small, sour plums and broken branches. Realistic expectations: plums fruit in 3 to 5 years. They're shorter lived than apples, expect 15 to 25 productive years. But they're fast, generous, and forgiving. Number 12, fig, Ficus carica. Figs are mentioned throughout Scripture, valued in Mediterranean diets for millennia, and one of the easiest trees to grow in warm climates. Figs fruit on new wood, often twice per year in long season areas. A single mature tree can produce 50 to 100 pounds annually. Chicago hardy survives in Zone 6 with protection. Brown turkey and celeste are reliable in Zones 7 to 10. Figs are energy dense, high in natural sugars, fiber, potassium, and calcium. They've been used traditionally as a digestive aid and in poultices for skin irritations. Growing considerations: Zones 7 to 11 for most varieties, Zone 6 with heavy mulching. Figs tolerate drought once established and grow well in large pots. Common mistakes: overwatering. Figs prefer drier conditions once rooted. Also, birds and squirrels love figs. Netting is often necessary. Realistic expectations: figs fruit in 1 to 2 years, even from cuttings. Freeze damage in marginal zones can set them back. Who should be cautious? Fig sap can cause skin irritation. Avoid if you have latex allergies. Number 11, mulberry, Morus alba, Morus rubra, Morus nigra. Mulberries fruit so heavily that a single tree can drop gallons of berries in a season. White mulberries and red mulberries are equally productive. Black mulberries are slower growing but have richer flavor. A mature tree can produce 30 to 50 pounds of berries per year. They're sweet, require no processing, and dry into fruit leather easily. Mulberries contain resveratrol and anthocyanins. Mulberry leaf tea has been studied for blood sugar regulation. The fruit is high in iron and antioxidants. Growing considerations: Zones 4 to 9. Mulberries tolerate poor soil, drought, heat, and urban pollution. Female trees fruit without pollination. Common mistakes: planting near driveways or patios. The fruit stains everything. Also, mulberries spread easily via bird droppings. In some regions, white mulberry is considered invasive. Realistic expectations: mulberries fruit in 2 to 5 years and live for decades. They're messy but unstoppable. Number 10, cherry, Prunus avium, Prunus cerasus. Sour cherries like Montmorency or North Star are hardier, self-fertile, and easier to grow. A mature tree produces 30 to 50 quarts of cherries per year. Sweet cherries produce more per tree but need cross-pollination and split in rain. Cherries, especially tart varieties, are rich in anthocyanins and melatonin. Montmorency cherry juice has been studied for sleep support and post-exercise recovery. Growing considerations: sour cherries, Zones 4 to 8. Sweet cherries, Zones 5 to 7. Both need full sun and excellent drainage. They're extremely susceptible to root rot. Common mistakes: not protecting from birds. Cherries ripen fast, and birds will strip a tree in days. Netting is essential. Realistic expectations: sour cherries fruit in 3 to 5 years. Expect pest pressure: cherry fruit fly, aphids, and birds. Number 9, peach, Prunusca. Peaches are not long-lived. 15 to 20 years is typical, but during their productive window they're extraordinary. A healthy peach tree can yield 100 to 150 pounds of fruit per year. Peaches are high in vitamins A and C. Traditional herbalists used peach leaf tea for digestive upset, though the leaves contain compounds that require caution. Growing considerations: Zones 5 to 9. Peaches bloom early and are vulnerable to late frosts. In humid regions, fungal diseases are constant challenges. Common mistakes: not thinning fruit. Thin to one peach every 6 to 8 inches for size and flavor. Also, failing to prune annually leads to weak wood. Realistic expectations: peaches fruit in 2 to 4 years but require consistent care. In drier climates, they're much easier. Number 8, persimmon, Diospyros virginiana, Diospyros kaki. American persimmons are native, cold-hardy, and incredibly productive once mature. Asian persimmons are larger fruited and sweeter but less cold-tolerant. Both can produce 50 to 200 pounds of fruit per tree annually. Persimmons are energy-rich, high in sugars, fiber, and beta-carotene. They dry beautifully into a chewy, date-like fruit that stores for months. Growing considerations: American persimmons, Zones 4 to 9. Asian persimmons, Zones 7 to 10. American persimmons have deep taproots and transplant poorly. Start young. Common mistakes. Harvesting too early. Unripe persimmons are astringent and unpleasant. Wait until fruit is fully soft or colored. Realistic expectations. American persimmons take 5 to 10 years to fruit from seed, 3 to 5 from grafted trees. Both are low maintenance once established. Number 7. Hazelnut. Corylus avellana, Corylus americana. Hazelnuts are the first nut on this list, and that's significant. Nuts provide fats, proteins, and calories, macronutrients that fruit trees don't offer in meaningful amounts. Hybrid cultivars like Jefferson and Yamhill combine disease resistance with productivity. A mature hazelnut planting can yield 10 to 25 pounds per established bush. Hazelnuts are rich in monounsaturated fats, vitamin E, and magnesium. They've been a staple in European diets for centuries. Growing considerations, zones 4 to 9. Hazelnuts sucker readily and form thickets. Most varieties need cross-pollination. Common mistakes, planting only one cultivar. Also, eastern filbert blight is serious in humid regions. Choose resistant hybrids. Realistic expectations, hazelnuts start producing in 3 to 5 years. Squirrels are aggressive competitors. Harvest as soon as nuts drop. Number 6. Pecan, Caria illinoinensis. A mature pecan tree can produce 50 to 100 pounds of nuts annually, sometimes exceeding 200 pounds in ideal conditions. These trees live for over a century and grow massive, 80 feet tall with 60-foot canopies. Pecans are calorie-dense, roughly 690 calories per 100 grams, mostly from healthy fats. They're rich in zinc, thiamine, and manganese. Growing considerations, zones 6 to 9. Pecans need deep, well-drained soil. Most cultivars require cross-pollination. Choose varieties suited to your region. Kanza and Lakota resist pecan scab. Common mistakes. Planting in poorly drained soil. Pecans will not tolerate wet feet. Realistic expectations. Pecans take 6 to 10 years to bear and 12 to 15 years to produce heavily. They're a long-term investment, but generational trees. Number 5. Walnut. Juglans regia, Juglans nigra. English walnuts are the commercial type, thin-shelled, mild-flavored, and easier to crack. A mature tree produces 60 to 100 pounds of nuts per year. Black walnuts have thicker shells and stronger flavor but require serious effort to hull and crack. Walnuts are exceptional nutritionally, high in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and protein. Research shows walnut consumption supports cardiovascular and cognitive health. Growing considerations, zones 4 to 9. Black walnuts produce juglone, a compound toxic to many plants. Don't plant tomatoes or peppers nearby. Common mistakes, not allowing enough space. Walnuts grow large, plan for 40 to 60 feet of canopy spread. Realistic expectations, English walnuts fruit in 4 to 7 years. Black walnuts take 7 to 10 years. Both are long-lived and low maintenance once mature. Who should be cautious? Walnut allergies are common and can be severe. Number 4. Almond, Prunus dulcis. Almonds are challenging outside California and the Mediterranean, but in the right climate they're unmatched. A mature almond tree can produce 50 to 65 pounds of nuts per year. Almonds are nutrient-dense, high in vitamin E, magnesium, healthy fats, and protein. They've been cultivated for over 4,000 years. Growing considerations, zones 7 to 9, warm microclimates only. Almonds need low humidity, minimal spring rain, and 200 to 400 chill hours. Common mistakes. Attempting almonds in humid climates. They'll grow but won't produce reliably. Realistic expectations. Almonds fruit in 3 to 5 years. In ideal zones, they're productive and long-lived. Number 3. Chestnut, Castanea mollissima, Castanea sativa. Chestnuts were once called the bread tree in Europe. Unlike other nuts, chestnuts are low in fat and high in complex carbohydrates, closer to a grain nutritionally. Chinese chestnuts are blight-resistant and highly productive. A mature tree can produce 50 to 100 pounds of nuts annually. Chestnuts provide roughly 200 calories per 100 grams, mostly from starch. They're rich in vitamin C and fiber. Roasted chestnuts have been a staple in Asia and Europe for millennia. Growing considerations, zones 4 to 8. Chestnuts need well-drained, slightly acidic soil. They will not tolerate heavy clay. Common mistakes. Planting in poorly drained soil. Chestnuts are highly susceptible to root rot. Realistic expectations. Chestnuts begin bearing in 3 to 5 years from grafted trees. Nuts must be harvested promptly. They mold quickly. Number 2. Olea europea. There are olive trees in the Mediterranean over 2,000 years old that still bear fruit. A mature olive tree can produce 40 to 80 pounds of olives per year, which translates to 1 to 2 gallons of olive oil. Olive oil is calorie-dense, roughly 120 calories per tablespoon, and rich in monounsaturated fats. It's been studied extensively for cardiovascular and anti-inflammatory benefits. Growing considerations: zones 8 to 11. Olives need full sun, excellent drainage, and low humidity. They tolerate drought, heat, and poor soil once established. Common mistakes: overwatering. Olives hate wet roots. Realistic expectations: olives fruit in 3 to 5 years from grafted trees. Full production takes 7 to 10 years. Processing olives requires patience. Brining takes weeks. Number 1. Oak, Quercus alba, Quercus garryana, Quercus lobata. If we're talking about trees that will feed you forever, trees that produce nutrient-dense, storable, calorie-rich food with zero inputs, that live for centuries and that have fed human populations through famine and collapse, oak is the answer. A mature oak can produce 500 to 1,000 pounds of acorns in a mast year. White oaks have sweet acorns with low tannins. Sometimes just roasting is enough. Acorns are roughly 60% carbohydrate, 8% protein, and 30% fat by dry weight. That's around 500 calories per 100 grams. One tree in one good year can produce enough calories to sustain a person for months. Indigenous peoples across North America relied on acorns as a staple. In Korea, acorn starch is still used traditionally. In parts of Europe, acorn flour was a famine food into the 20th century. Processing varies by species. White oak group acorns are sweet and can be eaten after roasting. Red oak group acorns require cold water leaching to remove tannins. Growing considerations: zones 3 to 9. Oaks need full sun and deep soil. A white oak can live 300 plus years. Common mistakes: expecting fast results. Oaks take 20 to 30 years to produce significant mast from seed. Realistic expectations: this is a tree for your children and grandchildren. But once established, it asks nothing and gives abundantly. Acorns store for years if kept dry. Who should be cautious? Acorns contain tannins, which must be removed, especially in red oak species, to prevent digestive upset. These 15 trees represent something deeper than gardening. They're a shift in thinking, from annual dependence to perennial resilience, from purchasing food to producing it. Not every tree will work in your climate, but even one or two, planted intentionally and cared for in the early years, can change the trajectory of your household's food security. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. When to see a doctor? While these trees provide nutritious food, they are not medicine in the clinical sense. If you have food allergies, especially to tree nuts, consult an allergist before consuming chestnuts, walnuts, almonds, or hazelnuts. If you have metabolic conditions, work with your healthcare provider to understand how high-sugar fruits fit into your diet. If you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or taking medications, speak with your doctor before using any plant-based preparations beyond normal food use.